This guest that I'm speaking of serves as the Executive Director of Government and Community Affairs for Utah, Nevada, and the Tribal Nations. So hopefully we did justice with introducing our guest for today. And even if we didn't, you all are going to come to just love and appreciate her as we do. And I'm speaking none other than Kaule of Verizon. Hi, Kaule.
How's it going, everyone? I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And you did good. You did good.
Yes, and our students met with us today, but you know what? We teach them to always be ready anyway. Just always have something in the cup and just have what is the old saying? To have a ram in the bush, I believe is what the old saying is. So we have a ram in the bush, and our students, they were commenting and texting me in the background trying to look for it, but we don't want to delay the time or belabor the point. So you know what? I just want to give you a warm welcome from Nevada Help Desk and say thank you so much for being so supportive of our organization.
Oh, we love working with you and collaborating and being a partner. So thank you for inviting me today.
Everything. So I'll start off with reading your LinkedIn about section. Oh. It reads, experienced professional with a demonstrated history of working in the information technology and services industry, skilled in the community relations, executive sales, account management, and wireless technologies. I am passionate about Verizon and how we are creating the networks that move the world forward.
Yep. You know, it's hard because there's so much. When I've been in a career as long as I have in the wireless industry, you know, I still remember when the word went from cellular to wireless for the first time, and thinking, you know, wait, no, we're cellular phones. People won't know what a wireless is. I remember having this conversation. So when you have a vast experience like that, it's hard to just put it into something concise because there's just so much that can be said. Yeah. So how was my LinkedIn?
I think it was good. It was concise and very efficient. I understood exactly what you've done, and it made sense.
Awesome.
It was very formal too. I liked it.
Yeah, I read some on LinkedIn, and they're informal, and I love those because they tell, you know, they'll say some funny things, and those actually stand out to me. And I'm like, I need to change mine up a little bit and make it a little more personal, maybe.
Definitely. Yeah, that little personal touch always makes it just like goes that extra mile and just kind of stands out.
Yeah. And, you know, but still at the same time, be who you are.
Definitely.
Yeah, so very cool. Got me nervous there when you were like, okay.
It's good to see that we all still get nervous every once in a while.
Oh, we do. Yeah.
Alrighty. I'd like to start this off. The first question with a little bit better. I'd like to ask, can you give a deep, simple but deep dive into your position as the Director of Government and Community Affairs?
Yeah, so it's actually a new position that Verizon created when I came on. So I've been with Verizon for 19 years, and it was all in sales. And a year ago, I saw this posting. So it's a fairly new, new position within Verizon, where the goal is to help us embed Verizon into the community. It's, Verizon is very well known. We support organizations globally, locally, nationally, but we recognize that a lot of the communities just don't have the relationship with us that we know they should and that we should. So my position is to help embed Verizon into the community. I also work with our network team in helping with our 5G build outs. And so with the government officials and, I have to, text my boss. My boss has been texting me while we're talking, because there's something going on in Salt Lake City. And he just wants to have a call with me to find out what's happening with that, with the permitting process. So, I help with the permitting. I help with our network teams making sure that Verizon gets to the end goal when it comes to our build out and support in that way. And then, we also work with the foundation side. So I get to meet wonderful organizations like yours and get to know you all better and see how Verizon can support you in just different ways, like doing something like this and talking to you all. So there's 3 parts to what I do.
Fantastic. Thank you. That clicks in my head a lot better. So yeah, now that so with the government side, so you're like working with getting like the permits and all like the acceptable regulatory stuff to make sure that it works fine with like the regulations that the government has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Have you worked with the government to like create any regulations?
Not me personally. I know that our public policy team, they do get a little bit more involved when it comes to the legal side of things and working with government officials in creating, not necessarily creating regulation, I don't believe, but more so just providing insight from Verizon. Yeah. Like we're working with one certain city and they just wanted our feedback on a policy and ideas of how that how the policy should take some things into consideration when it comes to network build out in the telecom industry. And in that way, when they're putting something together, they're taking everything, the big picture, into consideration so that they don't have to rewrite that policy.
Yeah,
that takes a lot of work to change something after the fact.
Yeah, it definitely helps to get it done correctly the first way.
Yeah. Yep. Great question.
I'll leave the mic to everyone else if anyone else has questions.
I had a question. So I was wondering, considering the positions you've taken on keep on growing in responsibility, I'd like to know, was this your goal from the beginning, or did these opportunities seem to just flow to you?
So my career pathing and moving into this position is very, very unique for somebody coming into government affairs. Usually you're not coming from a background with sales. You're usually coming from a public policy side. A lot of our team is made up of lawyers, people who have worked in lobbyist positions. Have worked with, just different community organizations, government. One of my coworkers worked for the Obama administration. And so it's very unique to have somebody come from an entire career in the sales field and move into this position. This was not the career path I foresaw myself coming to. And I didn't know if it would be a good fit because I don't understand, the government as much as my other colleagues do. But as I was going through my career, I kept hearing a lot of people telling me, you are a relationship builder. I was very successful in sales. I went up to the highest sales position in Verizon. There was no other sales position above that in the field that I was in. And, there really wasn't any other way to go. But I was working with tribes, with tribal nations. And tribal nations deal a lot with government and with network. And so I was able to utilize skill sets that aren't part of the sales position. And without me realizing, I was actually doing exactly what this job needs me to do. And so when I interviewed with our VP, he saw, they always tell me, you had so much passion about what you did with tribes, which was really what you're going to need to do in this position. And even though you don't have the background, you don't know any congressional people, you don't know any city council people, you have the ability to still work with them if you had to and meet them because of your sales background. You know how to navigate through that persistent side to get to somebody. But at the same time, you have the passion and the care of working with communities. And that is something that resonated with them. So I ended up being a good fit for this position, even though it wasn't something I ever thought I'd be doing. And I found my happy place. I found where I was supposed to end up with at Verizon. And who knows, 10 years from now or 5 years from now, something else may open up that could be a good fit as well, based on the skill sets that I learned from this position.
That's wonderful.
For the question. Yeah.
I have a question too, actually.
Sure.
So, how has your job changed with the rollout of technology such as like 5G and even phones advancing a generation every year? How's that changed your job?
Oh, goodness. Okay, so keep in mind, I started in the wireless industry, AKA cellular phones, when there were big phones only installed in cars in 1991. So technology advancement has, it's just been amazing to see how it's changed. I mentioned earlier how I remember just the name cellular changing to wireless changed how people saw where technology could go. Because even those of us in the industry, we were like cellular, right? And wireless, we didn't know what it meant. And when somebody said, one day, and this is back in the mid 80s, I mean, the mid 90s, when somebody said, what wireless will do is one day your phone, which were, pretty big phones back then, will connect to the internet. And internet was still on dial-up back then, practically. And I was on Maui at the time. And they said, your phone will be able to know that you're near your office and you can control your lights. You can turn on the coffee pot. And we were all just like, excuse me? So technology has always been advancing. It's just based on where your mindset is at that time. I remember when text messaging started. And we were like, nobody is going to want to text message when you can just pick up the phone. Because who in the world can get an entire conversation in 110 characters, which is how many characters it was allowed back then. When caller ID came out, we were like, why would anybody need to know who's calling you? We have the phone book memorized. We all knew the phone numbers. We didn't need, you could tell me a customer's name and I'll tell you what their mobile number was. So just those, if you think about it, just those little tiny changes of being able to see, it revolutionized and just changed the way everybody does everything. So now you move, and I remember when we went from analog to digital and then to 4G. And again, it changed everything. It changed how we had to, I was in sales at the time, how we had to keep up with technology so that we could, tell people about it. Back then, we had, a phone was being created every 5 years, a new phone was coming out. Then all this, then it came down to every 12 months, 2 years and every year. And then it came down to like every 6 months practically. And that was hard. That was hard trying to keep up with all the phones coming out. Going to 5G, I don't think people truly, those who aren't following it completely, I don't think they truly understand where it's taking everything to. It's taking everything to the next level. It's making where you have to plug in to have the bandwidth that you need for something. You can now do it from your phone, and you can play all the video games you want from your phone. You don't have to wait till you go home to go turn on your computer and plug in to be able to play Fortnite or something. You can do it on the go because it has the bandwidth. That's what 5G does. It allows a doctor to be able to, from their phone or from remote area, be able to go in and see what's going on and do an operation in, wherever they might be. That can't happen. It allows for autonomous, driving to become a reality, which will improve safety for, we expect that, they say that there's a trickle effect whenever something comes out. And some of the trickle effects of 5G is less people dying from car accidents. Just some of those things that you just don't think about. So trying to keep up with it is it's very hard. Verizon is launching all day long. I mean, every day there's something launching. We can't even keep up with it on what's going on because there's just so much happening. But and that's probably one of the hardest things. And I know this is becoming a long answer because it's such a great question. But in my industry, when I was in sales, one thing that I realized is we went from just being able to sell, just a couple concepts to now having to know the Internet of Things and all things. And some of the best salespeople, I think, if you wanted to stay relevant in sales and really be at the best, you had to understand technology. And I saw a lot of my coworkers who just didn't want to embrace it, just didn't want to take the time to understand what a water meter would do, because they're like, what does that have to do with me? I'm selling government sales. Why do I have to know about water meters and panic buttons and electric meters and smart grids and smart cities? And we had to. And so even some of the best sales reps in the industry, if they did not embrace technology and understand it and be able to speak to it, even at the 30,000 foot level, they didn't have to get all into the weeds of explaining all the back ends, but they had to understand it enough. They couldn't do that. They couldn't stay. They couldn't stay relevant in this career. You know how in the movie industry, they call it the triple threat. You're an actor, you're a singer, you're whatever else the other part is, I can't remember, but a triple threat. In Verizon, for me personally, I think those who understand IT and have your knowledge and are able to convey it in relatable ways, where you're not getting too technical, but you can explain it to a CIO of an MGM and down to, somebody in a small business of 10 people to their IT person, and still make it understandable. You are the triple threat in this industry. You are what companies are seeking when you can have that knowledge and convey it in whatever audience you have. And I don't care what side of the business you're on, whether you're in sales, whether you're in government affairs like myself, those of us who know what we're doing and can convey it effectively will do well. But in any technical field, if you have the knowledge and the ability to convey it, you're going to just, and you're able to do it like what I've witnessed today. And I'm not just throwing kudos at you to be kind. You should see, I took a lot of notes, and I was doing that because I wanted to see, okay, could you stand up next to a colleague of mine and hold your own? Because the real world is a tough one, and you all have it. You all do. You've got the IT skill sets, and every single one of you were able to convey it well and what you were doing. Very, very impressive. And you could do it to any level. I'm sure if you had the CIO of Verizon sitting in front of you, you'd hold your own. Yeah.
I'd definitely be very nervous.
Thank you.
Yeah, you guys.
I thought you had a really interesting answer, though, because it's kind of interesting how when I was growing up, all of those things were just common with my generation. And then there's going to be a new rollout of new items and stuff like that. And it's all new to me, like autonomous driving and stuff like that. But maybe in the future,
right.
It'll be common
it had
for
to
the
start
next generation.
somewhere. So there's the people that were there when it happened and are like, and we all had to figure out how we would embrace it. I grew up, I don't know, are any of you familiar with American Samoa? Samoans, Dwayne Johnson Rock.
Yeah.
Well, I was raised in American Samoa. It's a small, tiny little island in the South Pacific, just south of the equator. And, I'll never forget when we had live television for the first time. And technology, because before then, this was 1989, and before then, all our television, we had 3 channels, and TV, it was sent to us on videotape. The news was always 2 weeks behind because it's a 5-hour flight from Hawaii to American Samoa. And so everything was 2 weeks behind. And when we had live television, our first live television, was CNN. That was it. We watched CNN 24/7 because it was the only live thing we could get that was current. That changed the conversation in American Samoa. just that one thing alone changed from us talking about only what was happening on our tiny little 52 square mile island to now talking about events that were happening globally. And our knowledge went from this to this, just that one little thing. And now, of course, they have, like Dish TV, and of course, we have wireless phones down there and the internet. But it started somewhere. And those of us who experienced it, it was life changing. Now we look back on it and we kind of laugh a little like, wow, we had CNN, for the first time, that was it. But you're right. Today we could be hearing about things that are concepts, ideas, Elon Musk, what he's creating, with his satellites and everything, and the ideas of visiting other planets. Today we're like, but who knows, 30 years from now, it's what they're used to. So technology starts somewhere, everywhere, at any point of time. A change in reality changes somewhere in a point of time. And those who are on the bandwagon with it, take that ride with it. It's really great questions.
So I also have a
Sure.
question, and my question is going to be more of like your opinion, and it's, how long do you think it would take for 5G to be fully rolled out throughout most of the nation? And what do you think 5G will bring the greatest impact in? Like one specific field 5G will bring the greatest impact in?
I think that 5G, I try to think about 4G, and 4G is still being built out in different parts of the country. And when did it launch? I can't remember when. I'm trying to remember, but at least 10 years ago.
It's been a while.
It's been a bit. But in the scheme of things, it really has been pretty short. 5G, I think, will still be rolling out for a while. Verizon is taking a unique approach of ultra wideband. And so there's different types of 5G. And the ultra wideband build out is a little bit more time consuming, because you're building it from the ground up, and it's very concentrated, and you're bringing the mobile edge computing right to the edge of that network. It's very different, the MEC. So, and then there's a mid-band 5G. So there's different components of 5G where it makes sense to have it. I think it's where things are going to be going for a while. I don't know I've heard of even 6G. I've heard it actually brought up, but I think that's way down the road. 5G is going to impact everything, but I think where I hope it's going to make the biggest difference in revolutionizing things in the medical field and public safety, but more so in the medical field. How we're able to help, because of the use of 5G and being able to have doctors be able to do things more easily, more accessibly for people, especially in the rural areas. That I think is going to be the most impactful and helpful for those of just down to the community level at the very least.
I thought of one while you talked about that you had your history in sales and everything. And what is like one of the best tips you could give for like just a general selling of something, if it's an item or yourself or something?
One is need to know your product. Don't, sometimes you hear fake it till you make it, but that only goes so far. You really need to know your stuff. So if you're going to share something and you're going to sell something, don't make up anything. Have integrity about what you're selling to. People when they buy things, a lot of times they're buying it because they trust you. Sometimes it's because they really want the product, but if they can get that product from anybody, like a wireless phone, you can get it from anybody, really. There's carriers to choose from. You could go to a Best Buy to buy a Verizon phone. You could go to a Verizon retail store. You could go Costco to get it. There's all sorts of different places, and there's different carriers to choose from. But in the end, when people make decisions, a lot of times it's because you said something to them that they trust trust you. So in order to build that trust with somebody, and this encompasses anything, you have to know your stuff. You can't fake knowledge, really. And you need to be honest when you're selling something too. You need to be very honest, and people will see that, and that will stick with them, and they will continually want to do business with you because they trust you. They know you're not going to sell them fluff that really isn't good for them.
All right. Thank you.
Another great question.
I do have another one, actually. I was just want to make sure everyone else got their questions out. And I'd like to ask this one to everyone. And it's, what gets you out of your bed in the morning?
You know, in my bio, I said that I'm very, I'm passionate about working for Verizon. This is so cliche sounding, but it really is true. The work that I do and get to do in this current capacity has an impact in our community, and it has an impact for Verizon. That gets me out of my bed every day, because I'm helping our company build our 5G, which is where the future is going. It's so important. And I get to work with nonprofit organizations, and there's a great need with the nonprofits. And I get to help our network team, and it gets me out of bed because I know I have a purpose and I have an impact, and I can correlate the two.
Right. I like that. Yeah, it's I can see how that fits into like my lifestyle and everything too, and how that is applicable.
Yeah. And if any of you, Dwana has my contact information, you guys can feel free to, any of you, anytime, ping me. And I would love to hear from you.
Fantastic.